From the City of Angels, you are listening to the James Salazar Media Podcast. On today's episode, we're going to talk about what you can't and can't control. So let me strike the music, and I'll meet you on the other side.
Engage.
Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Say hello to my little friend.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
And welcome to the James Salazar Media Podcast, where you get your weekly dose of pop culture, politics, and futurism. I am the formerly mentioned James Salazar, a.k.a. The Media. Those who have not heard The Media, James Salazar, the reason why I call myself The Media is because such of the media is opinionated. And I have opinions too. And if that's all you need to give news is your opinion, then my opinion is just as good as anybody else's. So therefore, I am the media. You're the media. Now that's the standard for the media. But I digress. I hope everyone is doing okay. I hope everyone is fantastic. We are in full summer mode, and we have fully opened up in Los Angeles County, California. The inept Governor Newsom opened up on the 15th of June, everything probably begrudgingly, because the tendency of people is that they need to do things for our own good. And typically when people think that way, they end up making things more worse. When your mentality is that to control people, it never turns out good for the people. And speaking of control, we are back in the series, What You Can and Can't Control. Now, the idea about this series is that people are often worrying about trying to control, take up their mind, take up their time about things they can't control. They're all about it. And if you can't control it, it is a waste of your time and energy. And in fact, there are so many things that are in your control that you can work on, perfect over your lifetime. You ain't got time to worry about things you can't control when there's so many things that are in your control that you can work on and change and make a difference in. Right, Chewy? Chewy agrees. So, I'm going to go to probably the biggest one that you're going to hear all life coaches talk about is your perception. Yes, your perception. How you perceive things dictate how you react to things. You are 100% in control of how you perceive life, yourself, events that have happened to you. It's 100% in your control. And however you perceive it, whether negative or good, empowering or weakening, you have chose to perceive it that way. Now, when I am not saying that there is a reality that you can hook up into where this event, trauma, never happened. No, I'm not talking about that. I am talking about having the emotional weight of the thing that has happened to you. That is your choice. I'm going to say something controversial. You can't change that something bad happened to you, but you can change whether you see yourself as a victim. That is completely up to you. how certain events in your life color your personality and your decision making, how you perceive those events, informs how you react, what you're triggered by, and the decisions that you make. Now, you have every right to indulge in emotions based upon traumas that you have, but the indulging of those emotions has left certain character traits and decision making that you have to reap the consequence of. Let's go back and tell how it informs how you feel, how you think, and how you choose. See, you say there's a traumatic event, and because of that traumatic event, you say to yourself that you're a victim, and because of my trauma, I get a pass on acting bad, selfish, being self-absorbed, and people should realize that and adjust to me because of it. And because of that event, my emotions are easily triggered, and no matter what emotions it triggers, no matter how unpleasant, if people had my trauma, they would understand. So I feel entitled to feel bad for myself and treat everybody else bad. Because if they had my trauma, they would do the same. And because of that, sticks and stones will break my bones, but every word that is uncomfortable to me will destroy me. And the world needs to know it. And I don't need to change. The world around me needs to change. That is one way to perceive your trauma and how you filter it, the decisions that you make, and the emotions that you feel. You'll find the most entitled people are ones who've been hurt, who've been traumatized by past events, and let those events and the way they perceive it turns them into something where they don't control their emotions control them. And there's another way you can look at an event and how to perceive it. Because a certain trauma or someone let you down or failed you, you can say, because I went through that, I am stronger than ever. There's nothing that can break me. That I will never let anyone have that much control over my emotions based upon what they do and what they say. That I will be the one who's in control of how I perceive things, how I feel things, and the way I choose. That you will never give power to other people to affect you negatively. That the only people who can affect you in a way negatively is the people who are closest to you, because you care about what they think and who they are in your life. It's impossible for them not to affect you if you get into a fight. But strangers, people out in the world, there are some people, because of their trauma, strangers can affect their whole day. A news item can affect their whole day and put them in a downward spiral of self-pity and indulging in behaviors that are unbecoming a citizen of the United States of America. But the fact of the matter is, the way you perceive events in your life determine how you're going to feel and the decisions that you make. And if you feel that you're a victim, and not someone who is a victor over those certain events, those two perceptions are completely up to you. A lot easier said than done, but regardless if it's easier said than done, it still needs to be done. Whether it's easy to say and harder to do has no bearing whether you should do it or not. You should do it because it's better for you, regardless if it's easy to say or hard to do. Just want to say that because so what is easier said to be done. There's a lot of things in life that are easily said than doing things, but you still do them. I'm going to work. It's a lot harder to go to work than to say you're going to work. You can go to work, say, hey, I'm going to work, and then stay home and eat chips and watch movies all day. It was easier to say. It's a lot harder to do. So I just don't understand that statement, but I'm digressing. You do with that whatever you wish. But seeing yourself as a victim is 100% your choice. It doesn't mean it didn't happen to you. It doesn't mean you're letting that person off. But the bitterness and resentment that comes from such events does affect how you treat other people. And the results and the consequences of you indulging in your victimization has probably alienated everybody in your life. Because no matter how bad your life is, it doesn't give you a right to shit on others. And the people who are dealing with traumatic events and who have perceived it as the most traumatic event in their life, and it influences how they think, how they feel, and how they decide, and the results of relationships, you know no other way. You feel like you can't control your emotions, but you can. You can. You just have to shift your thinking. Happiness is a choice. A lot of people don't want to believe that, but it is. Because when it's a choice, you have to be responsible to how you feel. And it's a shift from thinking, I am responsible for how I feel, instead of everybody else is responsible for how I feel. One's realistic and one's not. One is fair and one is not. One is an unrealistic standard and the other is not. If you look outside of yourself for the power to change, you'll never change. The change has to happen in you. If you're waiting for certain events in life or in society to make you feel better about yourself, it's never going to come. You got to do it yourself. So how you perceive the events in your life dictate, once again, how you feel, how you think, and how you choose. And when you indulge in victimization, and I get it, some of you have some of your family members murdered, some of you might have been raped, sexually assaulted, some of you might have been beaten, or some of you might have been abandoned. I get it. But those events take a much bigger chunk out of your life than that one event. But you let it keep on victimizing you your whole life, justifying you to victimize others. So the mindset, let's go back to the mindset, the other mindset, that you can never be broken. You will never have anybody have power to trigger you in such a way that you will never be easily offended. It will be hard to offend you because you don't give anybody the power to offend you in such a way. And because you have triumphed over this trauma, that you won't be someone who is self-indulged. You're going to help other people through this trauma and show them that there's a better way to live, that they don't have to be defined by events in their life that are negative. Okay, so you're 100% control of the narrative of the traumas you have in your life that are affecting you negatively, as well. You are 100% of the positive events and mindsets in your life. So let me give you some things. And let me tell you something. Right now in our society is very difficult because right now there is virtue in acting like a victim. There is virtue in acting triggered. We see this in cancel culture and the politics of unforgiveness. And that's what it is. Unforgiveness. And unforgiveness leads to bitterness. And bitterness leads to anger. And then you got a bunch of people who are terrible thinking they are justified by what they do and end up making society much worse. There's a saying by C.S. Lewis, and it goes like this. Out of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victim may be the most oppressive. For those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, for they do so with approval of their conscience. It's a very deep state, and it's apropos of what's going on in life today. You got a lot of people who want to tyranny people because they think they have the moral high ground. But the fact of the matter is, when you try to control what people say, think, and do, you have lost the moral high ground. You are now totalitarian and fascist, no matter if you even call the other people who are disobeying you fascist. The fact of the matter is, the people who are trying to control what you say, control what you do, and control what you think do not have the moral high ground. And don't ever forget it. So let me give you some things that might help you break out of such ideas. Because when things go bad, even I indulge in feeling sorry for myself. So let me give you a statement that might help you. It has helped me. I don't know where I've learned it. I think maybe 40% I brought it up, but I've been saying it so long. But this is what I often tell myself, and I tell other people. When they start to indulge in the mindset that are going to limit them, like victimization and feeling sorry for themselves, and start to feel entitled to treat people bad, I say this. There are people who have had it worse and have done more and acted better. That's a fact. There are people who have experienced way worse than you have experienced, and yet they come out of it grateful that they survived such an event. They come out optimistic because they know it's only up from here. However, but there's people who've had it worse than you, who do not indulge, but are thankful and optimistic and want to change the world for the better. No matter what you have, there's always someone who's experienced worse. There's always people who experience worse and done more. And that's a tough pill to hear me, even for myself. I have to realize, yeah, that is true. And the key is to gratefulness. Being grateful for what you have. There is always something to be grateful for. And here is a mind hack for you. It is impossible to feel sorry for yourself, feel entitled, and feel grateful at the same time. You can look at your past life traumas, and you can say to those events that have influenced every part of your life and say, I no longer give you any emotional weight, any mental validity. I will not have you influence my decisions. You can do that in a moment. You can. It's possible. You can take the power of those events and make them inert. Make them have no emotional weight. It's just a change of values, principles, and mindsets. That you value a life full of love, happiness, and joy, and optimism and gratefulness. That's what you want in your life, and you're no longer going to indulge in the things that have been holding you back. And if you have to, act like it didn't happen. You don't even have to talk about it. You don't have to think about it. You can act like that's another person. Who I am today is this. This is how I feel. You can do it in actuality. You can do it with your emotions. Like, I don't have any emotions tied to those events. However you want to do it. You know, there's people who have blocked memory based on traumatic events. The mind does it for them already without their choice. The event is so traumatic that they block it out of their life. And they go on living great lives. And then suddenly they go to this psychologist and they unlock the memory, and then they're like devastated and they can't do anything anymore. And I understand the inability to figure out mysteries about yourself. But if you ever go down such a path, and if you want to expose yourself to some trauma, the fact of the matter is, they don't have to be emotionally connected to who you are now. And you connect if you want. Your brain is shitty at perceiving things. You ever seen a movie that's scary? You're perfectly fine in the movie theater. But what are you doing? You're closing your ears, you're putting your shirt over your eyes, and you're like, tell me when the scene's gone. There's no one hurting you, but your mind can't tell the difference. This is why porn works. You ain't with that girl on the screen. You ain't touching her. But your mind can't tell the difference because you're aroused. So you don't have to accept any event as solid if you don't want to. You have the mechanism in you to look at those past events and have them mean nothing to you. And you have the power to change who you are and how you react and how you feel and the decisions that you make based upon a new person that you're creating. In the Identity Redesign Matrix, my teaching course, I teach you how to do that. And I'm giving you a big nugget from it. How you perceive things is totally in your control. So, my friends, I hope this helped. As you know, I've been working with Legal Shield. This is the ability to have a lawyer on retainer for $24.95 a month that handles all kinds of legal issues. It is basically insurance for the law. And how much do you pay for your car insurance? For a crash that may never happen. You're more likely to have issues with the law than you are to have a crash in a car. That's a fact. And for the longest time, only the rich were able to have lawyers on retainer. But you can for $24.95 a month. Here's the truth. People who have lawyers have different outcomes in court than people who don't, who are just given a public defender. For the longest time, $24.95 didn't get you very much in Legal Shield. But because of technology and the advent of the iPhone, they have now 4 million members. And lawyers are getting paid what they're worth, and you are paying a low cost for it. And they are there with an app. You can push a button and get them on the phone. And one of the major game changers, you can press that button if you feel you're in danger for your life or you feel uncomfortable with a police officer. You can get your lawyer on the phone to be there with you with that encounter. That's a game changer, people. So I'm on a mission to get everybody on Legal Shield, to have every American have representation. You can find the link on the show notes under Legal Shield. Legal Shield, making the law work for everyone. So, my friends, this is it. We're ending it here. Next week, headlines from the world of futurism. If you want to, please leave a review if you like this podcast. Please subscribe. Please tell people. Take 10 people and tell them about the James Salazar Media Podcast. Also, you can find me and follow me on all the social media platforms, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn. Just type in James Salazar Media. I should come up. So until then, my friends, if the storm of life come against you and you find yourself on your knees, I say stand tall and take a look at that storm and say what my sensei Jack Burton always says, give me your best shot. Strike the music.